Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
We're joined again by Professor Lawrence Krauss. He is a theoretical physicist, cosmologist, professor of physics, and director of the Origins Project at Arizona State University. Also one of the co-stars of the Unbelievers, which follows, it basically follows you and Richard Dawkins. Is it fair to say around the whole world, really?
Essentially the whole world, at least 3 continents.
So what is the actual release date of the film? Because on IMDb it says December 13th, but Wikipedia says it premiered in April. Nobody knows what's happening.
It's true, and we're trying to let the world know as soon as we know. We had our world premiere at the Hot Docs International Documentary Film Festival in Toronto in April, and we have this film is shown in various festivals, and it's had various limited festival one-off showing. We just had an Australian premiere at the Sydney Opera House last week that I was at. We will have limited release screenings in New York and Los Angeles, November 29th in Los Angeles at the Laemmle Theater, so December 5th, and December 13th to 19th at the Quad Cinemas in New York. Those will be limited release screenings for New York and LA. And then it will be released worldwide in 2014. In fact, I was just on the phone with the distributor, Content Media in London, and we don't have exact dates yet because there are deals being worked out with Netflix and iTunes and all of that, and local markets. It will be distributed digitally, certainly in 2014. It may also have a theatrical release, but that will be country by country. And unfortunately, we don't have the detailed information yet because those contracts remain to be signed. The minute we get them, we'll put them on the Unbelievers website. But if you're near New York or LA, you can see it. We will have various other festival events, and those are listed on the website as well. And periodic one-off showings. We just did an event at Caltech, and those will continue as well. I wish I had more information than that. But,
no, that's good. That's more. I think that's plenty for now. So when you and Richard Dawkins travel around and you do these different events, is there one location or one event in particular where things just got a little bit hairy for you guys? Or is it pretty much the crowd that goes is open to the ideas you present? Or do things ever get a little risque?
Well, it depends on the events. I have to say, even the very largest crowds generally tend to be polite, although there are people who raise issues. I remember at an event in Canberra in Australia, some of which is in the film, there was a young lady who was a very thoughtful, turned out Christian, and she was really concerned and actually started to cry with her questioning and went off, and we actually coaxed her back to the microphone and tried to talk to her. So those things happen. Of course, there are other things that are a little hairier. You'll see in the film that at the Global Atheist Convention, which happened to be in Melbourne, Australia, there were incredible protesters outside, and also you'll the Reason Rally in Washington D.C., which features in the film. While it was incredibly a pleasant and supportive environment with 30,000 people there, all the way around the outside there were protesters. But on the whole, when it comes to interacting with people directly, I found that maybe it's self-selecting, or maybe the people who go are somewhat intimidated. I don't know, but people tend to be relatively polite, even if they disagree. And one of the things that's rather interesting for me about the film is that we did a test screening before 3,000 people in Phoenix, and took surveys of people where we could classify them. And those people who define themselves as religious, remarkably, overwhelmingly, said that they would recommend a movie to a friend. And that I guess surprised us. And I'm happy about that, because the intent of the movie is to create a discussion, not to bang people over the head with something, but get people discussing these issues.
Yeah, so since one of the main issues is this science, not so much science versus religion, but maybe science and religion in a way, I've thought of how I think that there's this sometimes sanitized or politically correct statement that you can believe in both science and religion. And when I think about this, I think about, well, from an abstract point, that could be true. But like Sam Harris has said, when you literally believe that there's a guy in the sky that monitors everyone and everything you do and evaluates based on rules we've known about only for a few thousand years, whether you go to a really good place or a really bad place when you die, can that actually be a view that you hold and so-called believe in science?
Well, I think it's very difficult to believe that kind of view. I mean, there are scientists I know who are religious, so I think people can hold contradictory views at the same time. But I think you hit the key point. When it comes to abstract notions of purpose in the universe, we can't say that there's no purpose in the universe. What we can say is that there's no evidence of purpose. And when it comes to the world's major religions and the doctrines of those religions, we can say definitively, and it's really disingenuous to say otherwise, we can say that those things are inconsistent with science. You cannot accept the doctrines of the world's major religions and all of the nonsense in the scriptures as fact. It disagrees with the results of science, and it certainly disagrees with the results of common sense. And so, I think some vague belief in purpose, as I say, is something that science can really never address, even if there's no evidence for that. But making claims on the basis of ancient documents written by people who didn't even know the Earth orbited the sun, that is inconsistent. And I think it's disingenuous for scientists to say, oh, there's no problems, because there are problems. Jonah didn't live inside a whale. The sun didn't stop in the sky when someone blew a trumpet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
When I propose some of these questions to religious guests who I have on this program often, there's often a reaction that is offended. And I'm curious whether you think there's a double standard in this sense, which is when media questions the validity of religion or of specific stories, often those who are religious take very strong offense. They are personally insulted. They find it to be a big sign of disrespect. However, when religious media, American Family Association, etc., put out material that disclaims science or makes claims that are not based on any fact, that somehow is not considered offensive by those who want a fact-based approach. Is there a double standard there?
Of course there is. It's called sacred. I mean, and the point is that we seem in our society to think that there's certain things that are above questioning or even ridicule, and there shouldn't be. No idea should be treated differently than other ideas. And I really noticed this when I wrote The Universe from Nothing in particular, and I became more sympathetic perhaps to my friend Richard Dawkins as well, because all I did in that book was question, is it necessary to have a God? And merely asking that question becomes offensive. And I'm suddenly called strident for asking the question. Well, if people are offended by questioning or feel, somehow they have to lash out, that tells you something. You don't respond that way to questioning unless you're a little bit insecure. And I think we do have a double standard in our society where somehow it's offensive to ask to say, look, this idea seems ridiculous, but when it comes to sex or politics or science, it's okay. And we shouldn't. And one of the things I've tried to argue, and one of the things we talk about in the movie, is that no idea should be above ridicule. In our society and in any thinking society, every idea should be subject to questioning, open questioning and discussion. And that's what we need for healthy society. And when you say, oh, no, this idea can't be even discussed, that's a problem.
Last thing, and I know you have to go. When you and Richard Dawkins are driving around, what do you guys talk about? Like, did you debate whether British cuisine is or isn't tasty, or like what when you're just casually hanging out?
That in the movie, the movie is as the director has said, it's a rock and roll tour film about science. He wanted to show what it was like for us to go around the world, and so there's a lot of scenes of us in cars and trains and automobiles and airplanes talking. And of course, we discussed lots of different things, and it's a grueling experience. And I think one of the things I like about the movie is that it gives a sense of what it's really like, and that's what they intended. I think there was a Radiohead movie that showed what it was like to be on rock tour. That it's sometimes a little less glamorous than it seems. And we, of course, Richard and I talk about lots of things, and I think you'll get a glimpse in the movie of what it's like, quote unquote, behind the scenes.
All right, Professor Lawrence Krauss, we're talking, of course, about The Unbelievers. You'll definitely be able to see it during 2014. Thanks so much for being on with us again.
It's a pleasure. You take care.
The David Pakman Show. at davidpakman.com.